What if chasing is the very thing keeping you from becoming? You've spent years in motion, chasing goals, status, validation, and success. But no matter how fast you run, peace seems to slip further away. It's exhausting, isn't it? The constant striving, the silent pressure, the need to prove you're enough again and again. But here's the truth. You were never meant to chase. You were meant to become. In a world addicted to noise, the Stoics offer a rare alternative: strategic stillness, inner peace, and a mindset anchored in virtue, not vanity. They taught that you don't attract success by chasing it. You draw it in by becoming the kind of person it cannot ignore. And you're not alone in this. Men everywhere are awakening to this deeper wisdom. They're trading anxiety for alignment, noise for clarity, and desperation for quiet power. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right yet still feeling lost, this message is for you. This video will take you on a path guided by Stoic insight through the power of stillness, readiness, discipline, and authentic self-respect. You'll learn how to stop chasing and start becoming grounded, clear, and unshakably focused. So stay with us. Like this video, subscribe for more grounded wisdom, and share this with someone ready to stop running and start rising. Let's get to it. 1. Stop chasing. Start becoming. You don't tame a storm by outrunning it, and yet, that's how most men live, running from silence, from doubt, from the feeling of never being enough. You chase career titles, applause, numbers in the bank, even the illusion of peace. You grind harder, move faster, and push more. But it never ends, because what you chase runs. It slips ahead, always out of reach. And worse, it controls you. Like a dog chasing its tail, you mistake movement for momentum, effort for effectiveness, and noise for value. In our culture, chasing is mistaken for ambition. But real ambition is not chaos, it is control. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus didn't build his strength by racing toward admiration. He forged it in stillness, in restraint, in discipline. What he taught was clear. Don't explain your philosophy, become it. Because men of substance don't broadcast their worth. They build it silently until it speaks for itself. What if the reason you feel lost isn't because you're not doing enough, but because you're chasing the wrong things altogether? That's the pivot Stoicism demands. From chasing to becoming. From reacting to building. From outward obsession to inward alignment. A man who becomes, slowly, deliberately, through daily choices, is not concerned with speed. He's focused on substance. He's not sprinting to be noticed. He's walking to be unshakable. Imagine this. 2 men stand in the same storm. One runs in circles trying to escape the rain. The other plants his feet, lifts his face, and lets the storm carve his character. Only one of them becomes someone others trust. Not because he shouted for attention, but because he weathered what others ran from. This is the Stoic ideal. Become so rooted in who you are that success finds you without the need to chase it. The mistake most men make is confusing motion with mastery. You can work 16 hours a day and still be nowhere. You can fill your schedule and still feel hollow. You can chase applause and still starve for meaning. Why? Because chasing keeps your worth external. It ties your value to outcomes, likes, and attention. Stoicism teaches the opposite. True power begins when you stop proving and start embodying. Start becoming the man who no longer apologizes for slowing down. The man who pauses before he speaks. Who doesn't rush to respond, but listens. Who doesn't chase status, but builds standards. Who doesn't beg for approval, but lives by his quiet code. That kind of man doesn't fear being misunderstood because he understands himself. So begin with a shift so small it feels invisible. Replace chasing with crafting. Craft your habits. Craft your mornings. Craft your attention. Instead of sprinting for validation, sit with stillness. Ask yourself, what kind of man am I becoming? Not in words, but in action, in silence, in discipline. Because the world doesn't need more men chasing shadows. It needs more men to become light. 2. Stillness is power. A warrior who swings wildly will exhaust himself before the battle even begins. But the one who stands still, who watches and waits, becomes lethal with a single strike. That's the difference between motion and mastery, between noise and presence. In today's world, stillness is misunderstood. It's seen as weakness, passivity, or worse, laziness. But to the Stoics, stillness was not the absence of action. It was the highest form of strategy. Stillness is control. It is the quiet at the center of the storm, the calm in the eye of chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That stillness, when cultivated, becomes your greatest power, not because it makes you invisible, but because it makes you unshakable. While others rush to speak, you choose silence. While others react, you choose patience. While others chase, you choose to attract. Stillness filters what matters. In a world built on urgency, it reveals what's real. Most men today confuse reaction with decisiveness. They check emails in bed, reply to everything instantly, and never let a moment breathe. But a man who practices stillness does the opposite. He delays, reflects, and makes space for thought. He becomes precise, not just in action, but in identity. Stillness is not laziness. It is loaded with direction. Like the lion crouched in tall grass, it holds potential energy. The moment you stop filling every space with noise, you start hearing the one voice that's been drowned out for years, your own. And with that voice comes clarity. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every fight is yours to fight. Not every opportunity deserves a yes. When your soul is still, you see sharply. Most men waste their strength on the wrong things. They respond to every provocation, argue to win approval, jump into relationships that drain them, and chase opportunities that dilute their purpose. But stillness creates contrast. It separates the urgent from the important. It teaches you to wait, to choose, to preserve your presence. And in that preservation, you become rare. Imagine walking into a room. Everyone is performing, proving, projecting, but one man is still. He watches, listens, and speaks last. He doesn't flinch. His presence speaks louder than their performance. He doesn't demand attention, he commands it. That is the power of stillness. It doesn't beg, it radiates. Like gravity, it doesn't need to move to be felt. To live with this kind of presence, start your day in silence. Before the noise of the world floods in, anchor yourself. One breath, one question. What actually deserves my movement today? Then move only when it aligns with who you are becoming, not what others expect. Stillness is not an escape, it's a weapon. And in a world addicted to noise, the man who can sit in stillness becomes unstoppable. 3. The path of awareness. A man can spend his entire life climbing a mountain, only to realize at the top it was the wrong one. That's what happens when your direction is set by noise, not clarity. Most people live this way. They chase dreams they never questioned, compete in games they never agreed to play, and build lives on borrowed goals. It feels like ambition, but it's really imitation. And imitation, no matter how disciplined, can never lead to fulfillment. Awareness begins when you stop moving and start asking, what do I truly want, and why do I want it? Most men skip this. They inherit desires from family, society, or fear. They want to be respected, but is it because they value respect, or because they were shamed for not being enough? They want wealth, but is it for freedom or for validation? The answers live in silence. But silence is something most fear, because in silence, illusions die. The Stoics understood that clarity precedes control. Marcus Aurelius warned that a man who doesn't know what he wants is owned by everything around him. He reacts instead of leads. He imitates instead of originating. When you don't define your values, the world defines them for you. And when your compass isn't internal, every storm sends you spinning. A man grounded in awareness lives differently. He doesn't chase metrics, he honors meaning. He doesn't follow trends, he follows his principles. He knows that the first step to mastery is knowing where your feet are and why they move at all. That's why awareness is not just emotional intelligence. It is strategic stillness in motion. It is the power to pause, not out of doubt, but out of discernment. Imagine walking through a crowded marketplace. Everyone is yelling, offering promises, flashing signs. If you don't know what you're looking for, you'll be pulled in every direction. But if you enter with a clear intention, the noise no longer confuses you. It reveals who's selling distraction. Life is no different. If you don't audit your desires, you'll spend decades chasing what exhausts you. So stop, ask, write, reclaim the author seat in your own story. Identify the values that are non-negotiable. Decide what success means for you, not for your father, your peers, or the algorithm. Then align your habits, relationships, and decisions to that clarity. It sounds simple, but it changes everything. Because a man who walks with awareness doesn't just move through life, he shapes it. He chooses purpose over pressure, presence over performance. He becomes immune to trends, Because he is anchored in truth. He stops chasing applause because his alignment becomes his compass. And when a man becomes clear on who he is, what he values, and why he moves, he stops drifting. So begin with the smallest action. One question a day. Is this mine or was it given to me? Ask it when you wake, when you scroll, when you speak. That's the path of awareness. Not loud, not fast, but unshakably yours. 4. When readiness meets timing. A tiger doesn't waste energy chasing every sound in the jungle. It waits, still, focused, watching. It only strikes when the odds are clear, the timing right, the kill certain. Not because it's lazy, but because it understands the cost of wasted motion. That same truth applies to life. Most men are sprinting in every direction, chasing opportunity, attention, outcomes, believing that speed is the key to success. But when you move without clarity, you don't arrive faster, you just collapse sooner. In today's culture, urgency is confused with importance. Men pride themselves on being busy, always on, constantly reacting. But action without alignment is noise. The Stoics knew this. Seneca warned, if one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. Without direction, motion becomes meaningless. Stoicism flips the paradigm. Don't act because you're expected to. Act because you're ready. When readiness meets timing, the result is not just success, it's precision. Readiness is not about having more, it's about needing less. It's not waiting passively, it's preparing actively. It's studying quietly while others shout. It's building inner discipline while others chase outer metrics. The Stoic doesn't move until the mind is calm, the values are clear, and the direction is fixed. And when he moves, it is not out of desperation, but conviction. The problem is that most men strike too soon. They rush into conversations to prove themselves, say yes to deals they haven't thought through, and accept roles they're not grounded enough to carry. And because they're not ready, even the right opportunity becomes overwhelming. Stoicism teaches that nothing is gained by acting from fear, but everything is won when you act from strength. The strongest moves are made in silence, prepared in solitude. Think of a blacksmith. He doesn't hammer metal at random. He waits for the exact temperature, the right resistance, the proper angle. Then, and only then, he strikes. That is not hesitation. That is mastery. Likewise, you must become the kind of man who waits with purpose, not frozen by indecision, but deliberate in direction. You strike when you've built the skill, the clarity, and the composure to hold the result you seek. So before you rush, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from impulse or principle? Am I ready to carry what I'm reaching for? Is this moment aligned with who I'm becoming? The Stoics didn't wait forever. They just didn't move until they were rooted. That's what makes the difference between success that stays and success that slips through your fingers. Build that kind of readiness in the quiet hours, through small, consistent rituals, through daily stillness, through questioning your habits, sharpening your judgment, and anchoring your decisions in your values. Because when timing finally knocks, it won't give you a second chance to prepare. It will ask you to step forward, fully. And when you've done the work in silence, you'll be ready, not rushing. You'll be steady, not scrambling. That is how real men move. When they move, the world listens. 5. Freedom in every step. Freedom is not the prize waiting at the finish line. It is the discipline guiding each stride, the inner peace mindset that refuses to be chained by outcomes while the crowd obsesses over trophies. Picture a seasoned archer. He draws the bow, inhales, and releases without flinching for applause, because his mastery lives in the motion, not the target. Likewise, true liberty begins the moment you stop tying your worth to hits and misses and start grounding your life in values that no scoreboard can measure. Modern culture sells a counterfeit freedom. Do what you want, get what you crave, chase the next high. Yet that lifestyle breeds dependency, because the moment a result owns your mood, you are a servant to circumstances. The Stoics turned that lie on its head. Epictetus reminded his students that detachment equals strength, that the only chains strong enough to hold a man are forged inside his mind. Therefore, the first act of emancipation is deciding what belongs inside your circle of control and burning the rest. That single mental line transforms restlessness into strategic stillness. You no longer lunge at every opportunity. You choose the battles that honor your compass. Moreover, once you accept that externals come and go, you discover a power of stillness that feels almost rebellious. Critics cannot provoke you. Markets cannot unseat you. Trends cannot drag you off course, because your direction no longer pivots on their approval. Seneca warned that a mind addicted to fortune is a mind condemned to slavery, and he was right. If profit, praise, or pleasure must arrive on schedule for you to feel okay, freedom is an illusion. Yet when you anchor your decisions in virtues, courage under pressure, justice in negotiations, temperance amid temptation, you convert every step into an act of self-rule. Even failure becomes fuel because it sharpens alignment instead of crushing identity. Imagine driving through a sandstorm with high beam clarity. The winds howl, visibility drops, but your headlights stay fixed on the narrow strip you can steer. That strip is your principles, and your calm grip on the wheel is your daily practice. Now translate that image into action. Start each morning with 5 silent breaths to reclaim your lane before noise floods in. Review a single guiding value, say integrity. Then ask how today's meetings, emails, and workouts can embody it. When setbacks hit, repeat the question, because repetition is how muscle becomes memory. Gradually, you stop chasing and start becoming. You feel lighter, quicker, more precise, and paradoxically more powerful, because nothing outside can hijack what already stands resolved within. Thus, freedom in every step is not a destination but a posture. Shoulders relaxed, gaze steady, decisions emerging from who you are, not what you fear. Practice that posture long enough and the world senses an uncommon gravity around you. Unhurried, grounded, unmistakably free, and it will wonder how you move so decisively while looking utterly at ease. 6. Building the inner citadel. Imagine a fortress carved into solid rock. No gate to breach, no wall to scale. A place where storms rage outside, yet the flame inside never flickers. That is the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius guarded, and every man who seeks unbreakable strength must quarry his own. We live in an era that mistakes exterior armor for real power. Bigger salaries, louder opinions, tougher postures, yet one sharp comment can pierce the bravado, because the defenses were only painted on the surface. Stoicism flips that illusion. It says the strongest wall is invisible, built brick by disciplined brick within your mind, mortared by strategic stillness, and reinforced by unshakable virtues. Modern men often reinforce the wrong bastions. They barricade their calendars with meetings, surround their egos with followers, defend their anxieties with distractions. Still, a single market crash or relationship rupture sends the whole facade tumbling. The Stoic approach is opposite. You excavate the noise until only bedrock remains. Then you construct a core so aligned with justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom that no external siege can penetrate. Seneca wrote that a great soul is invincible, not by chance but by choice. Invincibility is engineered during the quiet nights when nobody claps, while you review the day and weld your actions to your principles. Start there. Before sleep, draft a brief audit. Where did I act from virtue? Where did I act from vanity? That nightly inventory is the first row of stones. Next, limit the entry points. Every time news, gossip, or impulse bangs on your gate, ask whether it strengthens or sabotages your citadel. If it weakens, let it die at the moat. If it strengthens, invite it in for counsel. Over time, this habit forges an inner peace mindset so steady that chaos becomes background noise, and your presence radiates magnetic presence through virtue rather than volume. Critics will call it detachment, but it is precision. By pruning distractions, you concentrate force. Picture a beam of sunlight diffused across a field, warm, harmless. Then picture that same light focused through a lens, able to ignite steel. Narrowing focus turns warmth into fire. Your citadel lens is built through daily discipline. Dawn journaling to align intentions, midday breathwork to reset composure, evening reflection to seal lessons into muscle memory. Each practice is small yet compounding. How to build inner citadel, Stoicism style. Layer after layer until doubt echoes off the walls and exits empty-handed. And here lies the practical payoff. Once secured inside your fortress, you negotiate from strength, love without fear, lead without posing, because you know nothing outside can steal what is kept within. End tonight by closing every screen, sitting in silent darkness, and repeating one question until it settles into stone. What value will I defend at any cost? Answer honestly. Write one action to embody it tomorrow. then sleep behind walls no chaos can breach. That single ritual, performed consistently, is how a man stops chasing reassurance and starts becoming a citadel others lean on when their walls begin to crack. 7. Compound character over time. A single spark fades fast, yet embers nursed with patience turn cold steel into liquid fire, and that is exactly how character is forged. Not in grand gestures that impress onlookers for a moment, but in quiet, relentless repetition that no crowd ever sees. We live in an age drunk on instant results. Men scroll for shortcut secrets, leap for overnight gains, and applaud dramatic before and after photos while ignoring the invisible days between. Stoicism counters that fever with one sober decree. Greatness is interest, paid daily on disciplined deposits. Seneca compared the soul to a field, one seed at a time, season after season, until harvest becomes inevitable, and modern science agrees. Habits compound the same way money does, silently yet exponentially. Therefore, if you want a powerful Stoic mindset, stop chasing headline achievements and start stacking microscopic wins that no algorithm can measure. Choose one virtue, say integrity, and practice it in the smallest exchanges, returning an overpaid dollar, holding a promise no one will check, admitting a mistake before it's exposed. Each act seems trivial, yet like adding a brick each dawn, the wall rises until a fortress stands where empty air once drifted. Most men quit because they misjudged the timeline. They demand visible returns by Friday, and when the mirror shows nothing new, they scrap the routine and hunt another hack. Epictetus would call that spiritual impatience, wanting the fruit without watering the root. Instead, he urged his students to track effort, not applause. Likewise, you should log daily disciplines, not likes. Before bed, jot 3 behaviors that aligned with your North Star. Maybe a strategic stillness break instead of a rage reply, a deliberate pause that turned a reactive comment into measured silence, or an early rise for Stoic reflection rather than mindless scrolling. Over weeks, that journal morphs into indisputable evidence. You are becoming, not chasing. And because habits compound, the curve stays flat for a while, then suddenly bends upward, transforming ordinary actions into magnetic presence through virtue. That is how men go from invisible to indispensable seemingly overnight. Yet, beneath the surface, they have been voting for their future selves in private for years. Imagine dripping water carving granite. Each drop is weak alone, but persistence sculpts canyons. In the same way, daily Stoic habits for calm living, 5 mindful breaths at dawn, a midday question, am I grounded, and an evening audit of choices, are drops that erode the rough edges of impulse and carve out strategic calm. Eventually, anger finds no foothold, ego finds no echo, and fear finds no fuel, because the rock has been reshaped into an inner peace mindset bedrock. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each day's task is to build the life you want, brick by brick. Refuse to postpone, for the present moment is all you own. So adopt a long-view lens. Aim for who you will be in a decade, not what you can flaunt this weekend. Keep voting for that man through silent acts of alignment, because every small decision is a seed. Every seed becomes a root, and roots given time lift mountains. 8. Attract through authenticity. A lighthouse does not canvass the coastline begging ships to notice. It stands fixed, beams slicing the dark, and because it is unmovable in purpose, vessels seek its guidance. That is the secret men miss when they plaster themselves with borrowed signals, chasing applause that evaporates at dawn. Authenticity, in the Stoic way to success, is not a marketing slogan. It is alignment so exact that your words, deeds, and intentions click into one sound like a locked shield wall. When that alignment hardens, you stop vying for attention and start exerting gravity. People feel it the way iron shavings feel a magnet. Modern noise teaches the opposite. Tweak your image, update your status, brand every breath. Yet the more layers you add, the duller your signal grows, until no one, including you, can distinguish truth from packaging. The Stoics called that fragmentation a living death. Epictetus warned that a divided man becomes a spectacle, tossed by every gust of opinion, never at peace. Authenticity cures that fracture by bringing the self under one commander, virtue. And when virtue governs, presence becomes magnetic without effort. Imagine entering a room where everyone flashes their resume in neon colors, yet one man, calm, direct, anchored in an inner peace mindset, speaks softly, if at all, but his eyes hold something solid, like bedrock beneath the ocean. That solidity draws curiosity stronger than any spotlight because it suggests strategic stillness, a depth not shaken by fashion or fear. Seneca wrote that genuine excellence refuses costume, it needs no glitter to shine. Practically, authenticity begins with ruthless inventory. What values would you defend alone in a desert, without witnesses, likes, or rewards? Write them, refine them, carry them like a private oath. Next, audit your daily moves, speech, deals, even jokes, asking whether each act signals the oath or betrays it. Every confirmation thickens the beam, every betrayal muddles it. Over weeks, you'll notice an organic shift. Conversations shorten, yet connections deepen. Opportunities filter themselves, leaving only the ones compatible with your core. Stress drops because pretending is exhausting, while living truth is aerodynamic. The marketplace will label this confidence, charisma, even luck, but it is simply becoming, not chasing, letting value broadcast through congruence. Marcus Aurelius compared such men to the rose. It blooms and the scent travels. It does not send memos explaining its fragrance. Likewise, your silently consistent virtue, courage and decision, justice and partnership, discipline at dawn, will circulate farther than any pitch deck. Critics may test you. Let them, for authenticity sharpens under scrutiny the way a sword tempers in flame. Answer challenges with facts, admit ignorance with humility, correct errors swiftly, and your reputation crystallizes into reliability. That reliability, in a world of flickering facades, is rare currency. So tonight, blow out the noise, sit with one candle and ask, what part of me is still for sale? Mark it, remove the price tag, and replace it with principle. Do this nightly, and soon your presence will carry a charge, magnetic presence through virtue, that draws allies, mentors, and even rivals into orbit, not because you shouted, but because you glowed. This is attracted through stillness and action. No chase, no counterfeit shine, only the unmistakable pull of a man who stands where he claims to stand, rain or riot, and therefore becomes a lighthouse others trust when their maps fail. In a world addicted to speed, image, and noise, choosing to become rather than chase is a quiet rebellion, but one that rewrites your entire life. You've just walked through 8 timeless principles rooted in Stoicism for self-growth. These are not quick fixes, they are anchors. And the more you return to them, the stronger you become, calmer, clearer, more grounded. Stillness is not stagnation. It is the power to choose wisely before you move. Detachment is not indifference. It is freedom from being pulled in every direction. Becoming is not about adding more, it's about shedding what is false. Strategic stillness, inner peace mindset, and magnetic presence through virtue are not abstract ideals. They are daily practices. Wake up with intention, walk with awareness, and speak only when your words add value. When you slip, you don't spiral, you reset with clarity. That is how you build your inner citadel, brick by brick. Let each day become a training ground. Start with one habit, perhaps silence before the first scroll, or a 5-minute journaling session on who you want to become. Use stillness to make better decisions, even in chaos. And remember, every moment you resist chasing, you reclaim power. If something today struck a chord in you, don't let it fade. Reflect, write it down, live it. And if any part of your journey mirrors what was shared, I invite you to drop your story in the comments below. You're not alone in this. There's a quiet army out there, those who stop chasing and start becoming. And you, perhaps without realizing it, have already joined them. Let the world chase. You become every single day.